Hey, what's up, guys? It is Rapmark here,
And Fire Dragonfly.
and this is our rapid fire review for the 2017 Flatliners. So this is a remake of the 1990s one.
Yes.
Yeah, so essentially, yeah, five kids. They like
Medical student.
medical students. They go and they bring themselves onto the verge of death to see like what goes on. Like that's more of what it came off in the first one, as I remember it. I know you. It's been a while for you, so you don't fully remember
It's
it,
been a
but
while. And again, my memory
yeah,
sucks. But we'll see.
yeah. So I mean, that's the essential premise of it, and then they all just start getting haunted by hallucinations and just crazy stuff going on. I mean, they have these great mental gifts afterwards, and it's like the seduction of the whole process. I could definitely see it was a little weird for me though. Like when I watched this movie, I felt like the advertising for it didn't quite do it justice. Like it made it seem like it was going to come off, a little bit more like the original than what it ended up being for certain.
I can see that, yes.
And I don't think it was a movie that knew what it wanted to be honest. I mean, it looked like it was. I mean, how it's listed here is a science fiction psychological horror film, and I mean the horror part, it didn't seem to hit it. Like it seemed like it was trying to go for the horror, also be like a suspense thriller as well, and it just seemed really confused to me. Like, what did you think?
I can see that. I mean, for the most part, I really still enjoyed it, but yeah, I can see what you're meaning there.
Well,
You still jumped.
Well, yeah, yeah. It had those jump scares, obviously, but no, I'm not saying it was a bad movie.
I'm
I
not
just
saying that.
I don't think it was a movie that realized what it was trying to go for, or at least it didn't execute what it was trying to go for in a good way. Like, what do you think?
Again, I can still see it, but overall, I mean, with not remembering much of the original story myself, other than the fact I know I saw it many times before in the past, but not really fully remembering it. For me, I mean, I like the visual effects, of course, as well. And I mean, that's what really, besides that in the story, that's what really draws me in a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean the visual effects, I thought they did a good job on the visual effects. I mean, I think they did the effects were definitely not the weakness of this film. It was definitely, for me, the weakness was like the plot, the pacing. Again, it just seemed very confused, and the ending, to be honest, is like from what I remember of the original Flatliners, it just seemed really hammy, really like it seemed unsatisfying, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, I think
Not
it.
exactly like the original.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not a bad thing per se. But the problem was the original. It had that charm, and like with the remake, I liked that they tried to do something different with it. But again, it came off confused as to what they were trying to accomplish with this movie, in my opinion. Like what did you think going into the movie, and like with what you remember and stuff like that, and just everything?
I don't really remember much of the original myself. I mean, just kind of seeing parts of it. To truly be honest, it wasn't that long ago that I first really remember seeing previews for it. Again, I'm just like, oh, another like thriller horror like movie. Okay, I'm down for that because I enjoy definitely a good thriller or horror movie every once in a while. And so I'm just like, oh, I'm willing to give it a try. And the fact that they're pretty much, these people are trying to just see what it's like pretty much to die and then be brought back to life is just kind of creepy on its own.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's more to it than that, but I mean, obviously we're trying to avoid spoilers in this part, so we'll get on that more in the spoiler section. Um, but yeah, I mean, I thought it got its beats really well, and I thought the effects were pretty good, but like I'm trying so hard to like say what I mean without spoiling it, but like there were parts where you could definitely get the horror, like when the hallucinations start and stuff like that, and it's just all that. But then like it kind of goes into this thriller mode where it's just like they're trying to save each other and stuff like that, and they're still trying to figure out what it is that is going on.
Happening
and there were a lot of plot holes.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand.
There were a lot of plot holes, which I'll go into later, obviously. But yeah, there were. It was, and the advertising did not make it seem like what I thought it would be. It made it seem more like a thriller than a horror, and it's literally selling itself as a psychological horror film. And I think on that front, it fell kind of flat. It came off more as a thriller with horror elements than a psychological horror film, per se.
Yeah, I definitely get that.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Pretty much, I mean, yeah, I mean, technically psychological. I mean, they're messing with things that are happening with the brain. So, I mean, it can go that far, maybe psychological. But, I mean, other than that, it's like, no, not really. Just what's happening to them with their, of course, their brains and stuff after they've killed themselves. But that's about it.
Yeah, but it's weird though because it doesn't like fully dwell on that is the problem I had, and I'll get into that later. But yeah, just it wasn't what I was like. It was entertaining. I don't think it was a bad film, but it wasn't. I don't think it was a good film either. Like this is one I would probably say, don't see it in theaters. Rent it when it comes out on Redbox or buy it on DVD or whatever. But yeah, I don't think this is one where you want to I want to see this, because I don't know. For me, it just left me kind of disappointed. I mean, I was entertained. I don't think I wasted my money by any means, but it wasn't what I was expecting to go into.
I definitely get that, but myself, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily just say not see it in theaters, period. I mean, if you did, I mean, it's not necessarily something I would be like, oh my god, I have to see right now, type of thing. If you did see it in theaters, no problem. I mean, it was still good. It's something nice on the big screen, and sometimes on the bigger screen it's nice. So, but it's more so probably one I would put off until I'm like, there's nothing else to do, and it's like, you know what, let's just go see something.
Okay, that's I guess that's fair. I mean, I'm still not recommending people see it in theaters, but that is fair.
Either that or wait till it's in the dollar theaters.
All right, so my overall score for this, I'm giving it a 6. Yeah, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. If I did it by halves, I'd give it a 5.5. It just didn't hit those marks for me. I mean, that's still a passing score technically, but yeah, it didn't sit quite that well with me.
No.
How about you?
I mean,
what do you have?
I definitely agree with the 6. After all, I told you that. And myself, I mean, I was still very much so entertained. The story, I thought, for the most part, was intriguing and entertaining still, yes, that's for sure. And then, of course, the visual effects I enjoyed. But I mean, the way it started off, right away, I'm like, wow, at first. But then, of course, it kind of goes into more of them being students after that. But just like, of course, more of that, of course, it's spoilers.
Yeah. So there you have it. The score of 6 out of 10. But yeah, we will be back for the spoiler section of this video shortly. So we will see you then. Alright, so welcome to the spoiler section of this video.
Indeed.
So, alright, so Flatliners, take on the 1990s film. In that film there was a lot of like psychological horror, stuff like that, and it actually there was some unease with that one as that I remember. With this one, you got that, but it was mostly in the sequences itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it does take the role of, the 5 medical students. They do it. The main person, the Ellen Page, who played Courtney Holmes, she convinced...
At the very beginning,
yeah.
why she, of course, she's pushing to going into more of the idea of afterlife and what happens, because what happens at the very beginning is, of course, literally right when the movie's starting. She's driving, she's with her younger sister, and then out of nowhere, of course, she's texting while she's driving, and you hear her younger sister scream and out her name, and there's a huge crash, and it's right there where there's a bridge. They somehow hit the vehicle in front, flip over, and somehow end up in the water. She somehow escapes from the vehicle, but her sister does not.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what sets the whole thing into motion. And she talks, obviously her friends into this. Some go reluctantly, some go willingly. But they all eventually like give into this. And it's
well, all but one.
Yeah, all but one. The Spanish guy, I think. What is his name? Does it have it here? Oh yeah, Ray, Diego Luna. But yeah, I mean, after each one of them, like, they have this unsettling thing toward the end of their flatline vision before they're brought back. And, dealing with the event in their life that they're insanely guilty about.
Yeah.
And eventually it starts triggering hallucinations within them. But, I mean, and this is one of the plot holes, like, they get up and it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm just utilizing all this information. They like become super thinkers. But, once the hallucinations start, that is never visited again. Like, it's something that happened and then disappeared into the void. I mean, these are people who can accomplish huge, tremendous, amazing things, who have saved lives and stuff like that. And it's never visited. Like, it is never revisited. And apparently it also makes them very horny.
Yes, it does.
Which led to, some nice eye candy, that's for sure.
Indeed.
But yeah, it was... So yeah, that was one of the major plot holes I had a problem with. And then another one is, like, it never really explains, like, what happened, what triggered these hallucinations, and why they think they're so real. Like, it's just like, it shows a scene of, a brain scan, that shows some electricity going on, a couple minutes after death in certain areas. And then, that it just leaves it there. And it never really goes into it. So it kind of glared at me Like, what'd you think?
I mean, kind of getting more into that. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. It did kind of drop the ball there after that. I mean, they really didn't go much more into it at that point. It's just of course, again, once the hallucination started, of course, Courtney was the first of them to start, of course, because she was the first one to.
And it killed her off.
Yeah, it did.
It killed her off, which, you know, I was surprised. It would have. I'm not sure if it was a good or a bad thing, but I'm glad they at least took a chance on that.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, and there's this part at the end where, what's her name? Marlo.
Mm-hmm.
She's about to be just, you know, consumed by this, but the guilt inside of her, and not, you know, be woken up because she flatlined herself.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Courtney comes in this
back.
Like vision. It's just like, you need to forgive yourself. And that's
a little cheesy.
It was super cheesy. It did not hit the mark at all with me, to be completely honest. It just seemed cheesy, it was ham-fisted. It was very ham-fisted, in my opinion.
It was, but still entertaining. To me, anyways.
Indeed. Oh my gosh. But yeah, like, I liked the effects. I like how, you know, it built up tension, the drama, and like the jump scares there. I think they were well placed. The problem is it still just seemed so confused. Like, is it a thriller with horror elements, or is it a psychological horror? Because I mean, as a horror, it was a little bit flat, even psychological.
Yeah.
You know, and as a thriller, the pacing just seemed very uneven.
Yeah.
So I think it was trying to be both, and it kind of failed, is what my opinion is.
Yeah. I get that.
Like, what do you think in terms of pacing and, like, there were things missing and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, you go from the very beginning, of course, where, again, Courtney's with her sister, and then she survives, but at the time, of course, you just assume, of course, her sister did not, because it jumps ahead 9 years later, and it's just like, all right.
Yeah.
And then she's a med student, and she's working for a hospital with these other, of course, med students, and she just brings up with one of the other people that's within her med school section, within her, of course, section there, if she would come and help her out with something. And didn't really let her know what was going on there. And then, just out of nowhere, I mean, one of the other med students, it was almost like she was flirting with him, kind of way is what he thought too.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much that he was going to get laid, but no, invited him over to join. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, nope, you guys are going to kill me pretty much, and then bring me back. And it's like, all right, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when she's able, after she comes back, and I mean, she's able to recall all this knowledge that they'd learned previously and helped out with some of the cases they were working on. That just pushed the others into like, I want to try it. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, so I liked the build-up. The
cool.
build-up was definitely one of its strong things.
But I'm like, the idea, I'm like, it went from start where it's just like, okay, yeah, she was in a major accident. Well, what's going on with sister? And then all of a sudden, 9 years later. And then you come back to the idea, it's just like, oh, her sister is dead. And in this case, the manifestation that ends up coming back and haunting Courtney is her sister. And it's just like, okay, well, that answers fully the story, what happened to her sister, that she's dead. And, I mean, but you go there, I mean, and then you see, of course, the others there, like, oh, is it Oh, the one. Uh, Brownish haired guy. That's
Oh, the
the
Spanish guy.
no, not. I mean, it was light brownish, blondish.
Oh, the pretty boy.
Pretty boy.
Okay, I think that was Brad.
Brad, I wanted to say too.
I think so.
But anyways, I mean, him. You don't really know much about him other than, I mean, of course, he's this pretty boy. He wants to go to LA and work for a hospital there. And then all of a sudden, I mean, he flatlines, and then you see this random girl with him within his pretty much his experience.
Oh no, it's Jamie.
Jamie.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But I mean, you see this random girl with him, and it's like, what? What does this mean? What's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, some of the things when they are kind of bringing it out, it didn't fully make sense until, of course, they go into more detail, which we find out, of course, this so happens to be a girl from his past who he actually got pregnant, and instead of going and showing up to where she was supposed to have an abortion, he left her hanging, and
yeah,
ends up getting pregnant or keeping the child apparently. And
yeah, the backstories were very. I thought the backstories were okay. I mean, they were a little convoluted because it wasn't clear who was alive, who was dead, what actually happened.
Yeah, but the fact his manifestation was her, and it was just like, okay, this is weird. It's just going back and forth between. But I mean, overall, I mean, it was still good, but it was very confusing.
Yeah, yeah. I thought the dynamic between the characters was good, and that was probably the saving grace of this movie. Like again, I was entertained. I don't think it was a bad movie in spite of like what I'm like criticizing it for. But I don't think it was like a good movie either. Like I think it was just literally a little bit above average par movie. You know, it had plot holes. It had, you know, where I understand there's a certain point where you need to suspend belief, but I mean there were literally like plot threads that literally were really portrayed here, and then they just disappeared into the nether, and it was super weird. It was super weird. And I don't think it realized what it was trying to do. Again, was it trying to be a psychological horror film? In which case, I feel it fell flat. Or was
I feel
it?
Like it was supposed to be more of a thriller, to really be honest.
Yeah, and as a thriller, I mean, it worked better, but it's still the pacing was still kind of off.
I know, I can agree, but again, it was still entertaining enough for me.
Yeah, it was entertaining. I mean, I don't feel I wasted my money. I mean, my eyes were on the screen the whole time. It was pretty good. But yeah, I'd say literally for me it's a 6. 6 of 10.
I'd agree.
Indeed. So, well, there is our review for Flatliners. I hope you have enjoyed that. And we'll be back next time with more content. So, we'll see you guys later.